Hi, I'm Cameron McKenzie. I'm the author of What is WebSphere and the SCJA Java Certification Guides. I'd love it if you went to scja.com, bought a couple of copies of my book, charge them to your boss, buy many, take some of my online exams, check out my free tutorials, and please click on a Google ad or two, check out what my sponsors are up to. It always helps to support the site. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about right now was portlet preferences, or as it was known with JetSpeed API, portlet data. Portlet data is a way to store preferences for a user. So, for example, I've got this guessing game that says I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What is it? I can guess 5. It says guess higher. I go 7. 7 is correct. But what if I wanted a user to be able to decide their own upper limit? How could I do that? Well, for simple customizations like that, and it really should be simple customizations, don't abuse portlet preferences. But for simple customization, you can use something that the Portlet API makes available to you called portlet preferences. So what I want to do with this example is add a new mode to my portlet, an edit mode, which will be displayed by a little pencil icon there. And when a user goes to the edit mode, essentially what they can do is they can tell the portal what they want the upper limit to be. So in order to do that, I'm going to need an edit JSP, and so I'm going to create a new Java server page. And I'm going to quite uncreatively call it number edit.jsp. So I'm going to call it number guesser edit.jsp file. I'm going to click finish. There it is, the source code right there. I'm going to replace that with some of my own code. And as you can see, basically it asks the user, the number will be between 1 and basically it'll ask the user what they want their upper limit to be. Choose the range, number between 1 and blah, blah, blah. And you notice a couple of things here. One, I've named the submit button guess edit. I've named the value that the user will type in, new limit. So if they type in 100, new limit will be 100. And also notice I'm using an action URL. So when somebody clicks submit on this particular JSP, it will trigger the process action method on my portlet. Okay, so that's the number guesser edit.jsp file. Now, of course, if you want a portlet to support the edit mode, you have to indicate through the deployment descriptors that indeed the edit mode is going to be supported. So I not only have to add an edit mode and an edit JSP, I actually have to say that, in fact, the edit mode is going to be supported by this particular portlet. And so that's what I do in my portlet.xml file. I indicate that the edit mode is going to be supported. In fact, I may even just add a help mode as well. Why not? I'd always like to be helpful. And I may as well format that nicely. Now, of course, if you're going to have an edit mode, you also have to have a do edit mode. So inside of my Java file, I need to make sure that I add in, I've got to do view mode, I need to add in a do edit mode. And what does this do edit mode do? Well, it's not really that exotic. All this do edit mode does is just forward to the number guesser JSP. And for the most part, your rendering methods will really just be responsible for forwarding to JSP files that provide rendering. Now, the key is not so much forwarding to the JSP for edit, it's what happens in the process action method. The process action method really becomes key. It's here where we find out if the user has changed the upper limit, what that upper limit is going to be, and it's here where we need to manipulate the portlet preferences. Now, I'm actually going to go into my book and see all of the code for the number guesser. I'm actually going to copy it right in and talk about the code just a little bit. There we go. Format that. And so taking a look at the code, you can see, of course, I've got the do view mode. The do view mode really doesn't change all that much. I've got a do edit mode, which just forwards to the number guesser. Do I have a do help mode? Geez, I better put that do help method in there. So I'll just copy do edit, throw in do help, and I better just do something there in the future. But you don't want to say that you've got a mode inside your portlet.xml file and then not support the method. That will cause all sorts of problems. Okay, but what I'm interested in taking a look at is this process action method and how the process action method has changed. Well, one of the things you'll notice is that right at the start, we take a look at this portlet preferences object. So we get the portlet preferences from the request, portlet preferences, request.getPreferences. We check to see what's triggered the action processing phase, and if somebody's clicked on the submit button in our edit form, our edit JSP, guessEdit will not be null. In that case, that means somebody's suggested a new upper limit. So we find out what the new limit is, and new limit maps to that new limit parameter, which is the name of the text field. We take that new limit, we store that in the preferences as the upper limit. Okay, so we give it the name upper limit. We put that new limit in. That's the object right there. And then we call store, preferences.store. That's absolutely required. If we don't store the preferences, they're not stored persistently. And this sets the upper limit for the number guessing game, and it's stored in portlet preferences. And you'll notice that a little bit later on, we actually do get the preferences. So preferences get value, upper limit. And in fact, when you work with preferences, you can also actually add a second parameter in there, which will be returned if the first parameter comes back as null. So it's kind of a neat little safety net that we have there. And I'm trying to see if we use the portlet preferences anywhere else there. We don't. However, there is another spot where we need to specify portlet preferences.